here's Brody Brazil.
You know, I love all the questions and comments and contributions that come into this YouTube channel via the voicemail line. 833-4-BRODY. You can call in anytime you want. I literally listen to every single message, and then I get to play back and respond to the very best ones.
Hey, Brody. My name's Garrett, and I'm calling from the state of Michigan. And I wanted to just get your thoughts, and you may be covering this already. However, The Athletic just came out with a piece about FanDuel Sports Network building a production hub, and there's been rumors of other teams and leagues building things like this before for their broadcasts. And I wanted to know, as someone who's been in the broadcasting world the last handful of years and someone who's been there
long time
and made this their career, what were some things that you took away from those press conferences? Is this something that we could see Major League Baseball try and do, National Hockey League? Just trying to get some of your thoughts on this and how it impacts the viewers. I live in a market where I do get FanDuel Sports Network here in Michigan, so anything that may come from this may impact my broadcast.
Right.
I appreciate your work. Keep it up, and good luck. Thanks.
Garrett, I appreciate your call and your support of this YouTube channel. And by the way, having this voicemail line is such an asset for me because, I'll be quite honest, I wasn't even aware of this development until you called in. I listened to what you had to say. I went to go read that article you mentioned from The Athletic. They covered it brilliantly. I think they touch on pretty much everything from all sides of it. I will link to that article down below. But you're right, I do have some experience in this. I do understand exactly what's going on here, and I also understand the ramifications of what you, the end viewer, the consumer of FanDuel Sports Network, how things might change for you in the short term and the long term because of this centralization, right? That's my word. They'll call it a hub, but I think it's centralizing things that changes the dynamics of watching a sports broadcast. Let me step back for just a second. FanDuel Sports Network, that's just the name of the network. FanDuel doesn't own it. It's a naming rights deal. I don't know how many channels there are of FanDuel across the United States. There used to be a lot more. Back in the day, there were like 25 Fox Sports Nets. Then they changed name to Bally Sports, and now they're FanDuel Sports Network. And they've gone through tough times, a lot of cutback on obviously income, but also what they're spending on teams. And it's a changing landscape for sure in the regional sports network industry. I used to work in it for about 15, 16 years. I don't know how many channels there are of FanDuel across the U.S., but I do know that they cover about approximately 30 different teams, 13 in the NBA, 8 NHL teams, and 8 Major League Baseball teams currently have a majority of their games televised on these FanDuel sports networks. When we talk about remote production hubs, and that's the centralization here that's going to go on in Denver, I believe that they've been building this over the summer, and now they're debuting it for this upcoming fall season. This is nothing new. A lot of different regional networks have been televising a mass amount of games using a hub strategy and technology. The way that it used to be when I was coming up in broadcast production is that you had a truck. You had 2 trucks actually per game usually. And you've got a home truck and a road truck. And those trucks, they stay in the respective markets, but a lot of the people that that work in those trucks are from that market, but some of them travel in. And sometimes it's a producer and a director and a graphics person and maybe a videotape person. So a traveling crew of 4 or 5, and then the remaining, 10 or 12 people on the crew, they're from the local market. But now what you're getting is one production truck at a respective game and then another remote hub facility for the visiting team so that they don't have to travel all of their people, the visiting producer, the visiting director, the visiting graphics person, the visiting scorebug person, the visiting replay person, the person or people that do all the replays of highlights like during the game. They're not actually at the arena on site anymore. And the reason that this can all happen is because technology has just blown up in a good way, but maybe in a dangerous way, like to the point that you can control replay devices from across the country. You're doing this remotely through the internet. It's all directly linked on private connections, and it's secure, and it works like 99.9% of the time, but sometimes it doesn't. We'll get to that in just a second. So technology has opened this door. COVID was a huge part of this when people had to do things remotely. And then when they came back, it was like, oh, well, now we're just going to make remote the default in a lot of these network situations. So I know I'm going deep in the weeds here, but I just want to explain kind of the history of this. FanDuel is not new to this. They're not trying something new. This is not explorative. they're seeing some success in cutting costs with this, and that's what they care about most. And for right now, FanDuel is saying via this article, which again I'll link to down below, that only a couple jobs might be impacted. Those who do replay, those who do the score bug that we talk about a lot, you see it on the screen the entire game, or graphics that they drop in like, hey, here's the person's stats from last night or tonight or whatever. All of those jobs are relatively easy to work remotely here in 2025. I'm not saying I think that makes for the best product. I'm just saying that having a computer set up here that's linked to the actual production truck in Philadelphia, Detroit, Dallas, Kansas City, Seattle, wherever you name it, it's not hard to pull off these days because of the connectivity that's easily existing. So there is some concern, right, about workers who are doing the job, like their jobs are being displaced. And look, if you're FanDuel Sports Network, isn't it easier to hire 2 people that just work 5 nights a week? And that way they're not traveling from one city to the next. So you're cutting down on their expensive travel and airplane rides and hotel stays and food and meals and per diem and all that stuff. You're cutting all that down and you're just saying, hey, well, now you just work in Denver. And even though the game tonight is in Miami or it's in Boston or it's in Portland, you're working out of Denver tonight. So you just show up to your job in Denver and let the few people travel on the road and you just connect and you do it remotely. I guess I could explain it like this. This is kind of like a remote worker situation. Whatever your job is, whatever your industry is, this is having more remote workers. But the difference is, and what's talked about a lot is, do you do better work if you're actually on site? And if the equipment doesn't break or there's no connection problems or glitches or technical issues, like that will stop down a broadcast instantly. So FanDuel opening up this Denver hub, the main thing for them, cutting cost, whether they'll admit it or not. This is not to make a better product. I don't think anybody can claim that. They're trying to streamline. They're trying to be more efficient. Fewer jobs for those of us who work in a television or production environment. But I think the biggest thing is, what are you risking in terms of the actual production value and the mistakes that are going to be made and the glitches that are going to happen and the growing pains that you're going to have to go through? It might take 10 or 15 years until this feels a lot more mainstream. Are you cutting a corner to just cut cost? And how much cost is this really worth to cut over the long term and building a whole hub? Obviously, it's worth it. They've crunched the numbers on it already. I guess I just want to close out by saying technology advancements in production value are great. If you can do more things because the technology allows it and better things because the technology allows it, that's great. That's what we're aiming for. I do feel like production value on a lot of these regional broadcasts have taken a hit because of hiring less people, because of doing shows remotely where the producer and the director are 3,000 miles away from the game. And they can't be there to understand the moment, or they can't see all of the people in person before the game, and they're just not there. There's something to be said about, being there and showing up and being present in front of your tools, the tools of your trade. If I were trying to control all of this, like from another room in my house, you know what I'm saying? It just wouldn't go as well versus me being here and having the buttons in front of me and being in this environment. It's just, to me, production value is already starting to decline, and I think things like this just put it in even more danger of slipping. And I know we're in 2025 where people don't care as much about maybe a misspelled graphic or one that shows up with no name or it's got a template based on it because of a tech error or a human error because they're not there or because all of a sudden this person doesn't just work Denver Nuggets games anymore. Now they do Denver Nuggets and Carolina Hurricanes and Seattle Kraken and Florida Panthers. I'm just naming stuff here. Phoenix Suns, whatever it is, because they're so disjointed, they're like forgetting where they're even at. So I get what they're doing. I do think you might notice that things won't be at that same level, but it's all about the cost, right? In the end, the cost and the dollars, maybe to FanDuel, might matter most. Let me know what you think about this. If you notice even what I'm talking about, maybe this was too deep in the weeds for a lot of people too. Let me know that too. I'm interested in your feedback in the comment section below. Also, thumbs up while you're down there. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I would love to see you back here next time.